Welcome to the Productive Q Podcast. This show is all about empowering you with biblical principles and practical resources to help you overcome being unproductive so you can produce in the area of your passion. Now your host, Quamon Fowler.
What's going on? This is Quamon Fowler of the Productive Q Podcast, and I really appreciate you for taking the time to take a listen to this episode. This is actually a two-part interview with Shawn Thunder Wallace, who is a professor in the jazz department. He actually is over the department for the jazz program there at Ohio State University. He's a multi-instrumentalist, and he is a master on every instrument he plays. I mean, he's a phenomenal guy. He just recently got his doctorates, too, in music. But I thought it'd be great to have him here on the podcast just so you could learn about who he is and how he's developed. He's definitely the epitome of being productive and disciplined. So check it out. It's going to be good. All right. Welcome to this week's podcast for the Productive Q Podcast. And I'm your host, Quamon Fowler. And this time around, we got a special guest who has been one who has been phenomenal in many different areas. And I ran across him years back on the internet searching some type of way, and I ran across his saxophone playing. But, come to find out, he actually plays not only the saxophone, but he plays the flute, the clarinet, and guitar and bass. And when I say he plays them, he's like a master on these instruments. But he's also currently a professor at Ohio State University. And phenomenal guy, good man of God as well. And had to have him on here. This is my man, Shawn Thunder Wallace. What's going on, Shawn?
Hey, what's happening, man? I'm doing well. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to your audience, and always enjoy, rapping with you.
Yeah. Well, great, man. I'm glad we were able to connect and get a chance to share and dig into some things to introduce you to the listeners out there. And just to get started, I just want to find out, how did you get started? What was your upbringing?
All right. Well, so I was born in Columbus, Ohio. My dad is Michael James Wallace Jr. I'm sorry, Michael James Wallace. My older brother is Michael James Wallace Jr. My dad is Michael James Wallace. He goes by Mickey. And my mom is Phyllis Wallace. And they actually just celebrated 50 years of marriage this past July.
Oh, man, that's cool.
Yeah. So, I think that tells you a lot about the stability in my upbringing and support, and just the kind of loving kind of atmosphere that I grew up in. It was a loving atmosphere, but it was also you were expected to produce. One of the greatest things my dad taught me was never to make excuses. He wouldn't allow excuses. If he told us to do something, and he was a master at knowing what we are capable of doing and what our skills were, and what it was that we were passionate about. If he said this is what you are to do, then the expectation is that you did it, and excuses weren't something that we made. And that might be the, that's one of the greatest assets, one of the greatest gifts that he gave to me was the gift of not making excuses, because it's in our society, excuse making is and blaming someone else, for your failures is sort of the way that it's unfortunately the way that our culture is kind of gone. But my dad, because he wanted our upbringing to be different from his own. He grew up, in Columbus, Ohio, and so he wanted us to grow up around, some grass, a yard. So he took a job working for International Harvester up in Michigan, and actually his job was in Charlotte, Michigan, but we lived in Eaton Rapids, which was where we lived was sort of halfway between the sort of city limits of Eaton Rapids and Lansing. Lansing is the capital of Michigan. And so I grew up in a house. We had 2 acres. There's an 80-acre cow pasture behind our house. And, I had horses and 4-wheelers and go-karts. And, the house that we moved into was like a 1920s farmhouse that we built onto. And it's a dirt road. And matter of fact, it's still a dirt road. So it was much different than his own upbringing. He wanted us to have an opportunity to sort of replicate some experiences that he had when he visited his extended family, and his extended family had, was kind of out in, farm country. So it was important to him. Mm-hmm. So he did what he had to do to create that situation for his family. I started playing saxophone when I was 6. One thing about my dad, he was a great musician. He was a great saxophone player. And he actually initially went to school for music and then changed his degree to another sort of degree, and he maintained a minor in music. And then after he was married and had his first child, he went back to school to do an MBA. And he worked for the state of Michigan. He was a high-ranking bureaucrat in the state of Michigan. And he's been retired for several years now. But he was my teacher all the way until I went to high school. I started playing when I was 6, and it was the only thing that I wanted to do.
So you say he was your you say he was your teacher. So you did homeschool?
No, when I say he was my teacher, we went to public school, but he taught me lessons. I mean, he was a great saxophone player, and I heard him playing around the house, and so I kept, asking him to teach me. And I guess I had been asking for years, and so he knew that I actually had the desire, and so he started teaching me. And at first, obviously, playing alto saxophone, it was too heavy for a 6-year-old. So he designed out of wood a saxophone stand that could be set on top of the piano bench, and then I could walk up to the saxophone and I could practice. It wasn't long before I was practicing 2, 3, 4, 5 hours a day. My son is Moses. His name's Moses. Mm-hmm. And Moses is 6 now. And it makes me realize how strange I was to want to practice like that when I was 6.
Right.
And it's not the kind of thing I can take credit for. It's just I was possessed by music. I just wanted to play all the time. I wanted to. And my dad, I had a significant advantage in that my dad was a great musician, and that he was giving me a lesson every day, and he listened to what it was that I was practicing, and so he could regularly, make suggestions, and tell me, let's do that again. Make sure you're listening to what it is that you're playing. All of the advice that he gave me. So when I was in first grade, I played in the 6th grade band at school. And when I was in 2nd grade, I played in the 8th grade band. And 3rd grade, I was in the high school band, concert bands. There was no jazz at the school that I was at until I was in 7th grade. And so when I was in 7th grade, I went to a middle school that was like adjacent to the high school. And so then I could walk over to the high school during the rehearsal for the jazz ensemble. And I played in that ensemble until I left that school. So I went to high school in Eaton Rapids, and I transferred from Eaton Rapids High School when I was a junior to Lansing Everett High School, which is a more of an integrated school. And for me at that time, it was a better situation. And of course, I played in the band and stuff there. But my first recording came out when I was 14. I started composing when I was 7. And so about half of the music on this recording when I was 14 was, and it was a record, 1989 was a record.
Wow.
So half of the music was my composition, and then the other half was sort of things that I arranged, standards and things.
Okay.
And I put another record out when I was 16. It was a CD. Then another one when I was 18, and so on. I've produced 8 recordings, and composition has always been a primary part of my musical expression. And it's been a great way to express my emotion, my ideas. And of course I went to college. When I finished high school, I didn't want to go to college. And so my dad made me a deal. I said, okay, well, you don't have to go to college, but you do have to do something. And so I practiced 8 hours a day for a year. And I was still playing with everyone. One thing my dad always did is he always had me playing with musicians that were much more experienced than I was. And great musicians. And so from very, very young, I played with a lot of name artists. I was playing with Rodney Whitaker, when I was 9. I was on a cable access television show in Detroit playing Moment's Notice when I was 9, and Rodney Whitaker's in that video. My dad's playing piano on that. And
I think I might have saw that. If you, for those that are listening, you can go and Google or YouTube some of these things. I remember seeing you on the Phil Donahue show with Branford came out.
Yep. I had a really bad haircut.
Yeah, that was funny. But you was playing stuff that's pretty amazing still. I can't do on the alto.
I don't know about that, man.
but it was good. But I remember seeing that one with Moments Notice like years back when I think I first was ran across some of your stuff. So how would they find that?
After the Phil Donahue show, I did Jazz BET's Jazz Central. So I did a couple episodes of that, and then I did CBS Sunday Morning.
Okay.
And that was a big national spot. And that was when I was in college. So after that 1 year of me, I don't really want to go to school and practice and drink, I was like, okay, well, maybe I should go to college. So my dad made me another deal. And the deal was, if I got at least a B, that he would reimburse 100% of my expense for going to community college. So I did. I went for 1 year, and of course, I got at least B's on everything. And then I transferred into Western Michigan University, where I did my undergraduate degree, and that was really great. And then I decided I wanted to continue on, because I think I had decided that I wanted to teach at the college level, and I at least needed a master's degree for that. So I completed my master's degree in 2001. Now, the whole time I was in school, I was, performing regularly and writing music and doing all of that. Also, this must have been maybe my senior year of my undergrad. This would have been about maybe 98, between 97 and 98. I started playing at a church in Kalamazoo. And the pastor there, we're still good friends. He's a good man. He's a fine keyboard player. So he hired me to play, to be the band director. And I was doing this part-time as I was finishing my undergrad and then going into my master's degree. And then when I finished my master's degree in 2001, they offered me a full-time job. So my first full-time job was as the pastor's assistant and band director for this about 2,500 member church.
Okay.
Kind of black integrated kind of church, kind of a word of faith, kind of charismatic sort of church. And I had a lot of really great experiences there. I still have friends that, from there. And like I said, I'm still friends with the pastor there.
Many aspiring musicians most often don't get the balanced mentorship that they need to be functional away from their music. Most grow up desiring to travel the world and play on the big stage, but they end up neglecting their natural God-given role as just being a good man or woman, husband or wife, and father or mother. The good musicians are often told that they have a musical gift and end up going through life believing all they are supposed to do in life is play their instrument for a living. The irony behind this thinking is when musicians receive this as their only purpose, they limit their full potential as a human being and struggle to develop other skills outside of music. This is The Christian Musician, an audiobook that I have available on audible.com. You can listen to it for free if you start your free trial with Audible today by going to QuamonFowler.com/audiobook. This book will really bless you.
After that, I decided that it was ready I was time to do something else. And so when I was in my undergrad in college, I started substitute teaching in the Lansing School District. So Kalamazoo is about an hour and 15 minutes away from about an hour and a half away from Lansing. And since I went to high school in Lansing, my senior year, I had created a lot of connections and stuff, and folks knew me because of the music and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted some teaching experience, and I knew that that would be important. You know, I knew that I wanted to teach, and so I was like, well, here's a way that I can get some experience. I had been teaching private lessons for years, but I wanted some classroom experience. And in Michigan, the way that the rules were, the law was, is that if you had 90 college credits, then you could take the, you can qualify, you can, take the licensing stuff to be qualified to teach as a substitute school teacher. So I could do it every day. And the way it worked out was that Western Michigan University was out of session in April. At the end of April, but the Lansing School District continued on almost until mid-June. So that it gave me a month and a half where I could just get some teaching experience. And so I'd move back to my parents' house, and I would, and I would go in. And at that time, there was a shortage of folks that had music experience. So I could basically go in and substitute teach in the doing music, because a lot of the band directors and stuff, they knew about me, and they would request me. And so I had been doing that for a couple years. So then basically what happened is when I left the church position in 2003, must have been 2003. So when I left the church position in 2003, the school district got in touch with me and saying, hey, we need an orchestra director for Lansing Eastern High School. So they hired me, and they hired me as a permanent sub. And then the way that it worked was, if you worked 30 days consecutively, then your pay would double and you'd get full benefits and insurance. And
wow.
Yeah, so that really worked out. And then I started teaching, I started another part-time position at another school, at a charter school. So I was full-time in the Lansing School District as an orchestra director. I was part-time in this other school district, in Eaton Rapids School District. It was a charter school. I was teaching like 3 days a week. It would come after school was over. And then I also picked up a church position, a band director position at a church in Lansing. And then, of course, I'm still writing music, producing recordings, recording, traveling, going to trade shows, and I'm doing all that stuff. And then I also had about 20 private students. So I was doing all of that stuff.
Wow.
I tell people I had 5 jobs.
Mm-hmm.
So I was doing all that stuff when a buddy of mine, a guy that was a roommate of mine when I was in college, he told me about a job posting for a position at Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at the posting, and I realized that I was actually late, because I just found out about it, and I had just missed the deadline. And so, as fortune would have it, the director of jazz studies at Ohio State is someone that I had already been in contact with, because he had been following my career from when I was pretty young, and he'd seen me on TV, and he was following things. And he actually asked me to be a guest for the Ohio State Jazz Festival. I think I was 17 or something at the time. So I played for the Jazz Festival. It was really cool. It was a great experience. And so when I called him and said, hey man, I want to do this, but I realized I got my stuff in late. He knew who I was, of course. And he said, don't worry about that. Just get your stuff in. And so I got all the, I got all my materials in. I was I was a finalist for the position, and then of course I got the job.
Awesome.
And teaching for me has never been about like a cop out or like a fallback position. Teaching is something that I would be doing if I was, at a university in position or not, and if it was music or not. It's just that's my motivation is as a teacher. My skill is music, but my motivation is teaching. And
that's kind of like me. It's you have your gift is that of a teacher, and music is an avenue, and that your giftedness can be used through, because you know how it is when you learn by yourself. You go through processes. Of course, you have your dad, but at the same time, when you practice, you have to teach yourself. You have to discover and figure out things, and as you do, you develop your own system of doing things, of going about things, and then you have to, when you show it to someone else, you have to communicate the systems and the things that you've developed, individually or personally. And I always found joy in that, helping other people with, having that light bulb go off.
Yeah, I mean, there's, I probably missed, some significant moments, but it's interesting. I think often people expect there to be some kind of epiphany or ta-da moment or something, and that moment is what ends up, creating some kind of life-altering, change or something. But what I've actually found is that it's what you do for periods of time, it's what you stick to. It's what you're committed to. It's something that happens over time, not something that happens in the moment. And the word passion is used a lot. I also like the term dispassion or dispassionate. And when I study, for instance, the life of early church saints, there's a lot of talk about achieving what they call dispassion. And in this sense, what they don't mean that you don't enjoy what you do, or that you're not doing what you're called to do. You're just doing whatever. That's not what they're talking about. Or that you're apathetic, you don't even care. That's not what they're talking about. What they're talking about is achieving a level of maturity where the decisions and the actions that you take, they are not sort of whimsical or flighty or flash in the pan or, and it's also a statement about level of commitment. Like nothing can knock you off of what it is that you're supposed to be doing.
That's really key what you said, because like this past couple of weeks when my computer went out, I'm so used to getting stuff done with my computer, and so when that happened, it goes like I just did a podcast before where I was talking about key words. And one of the words was focus. And, it's like that podcast and the stuff that I was listening to kind of prepared me for this week, because regardless of, a tool that I'm used to using went out on me, I couldn't waste time or spend time complaining about, oh man, my computer. I had to move on and continue to get stuff done in the midst of that. And one of, I think, a key word that, you can consider for situations like this is being consistent and being resilient. Because as things happen, and things are going to happen in life, but you have to stay focused, on what's the main goal. All right, I need to finish or continue regardless of this happening and be consistent, you know. And I was able to do other things, maybe spend more time with my kids, or I was able to practice and record some more videos, because sometimes when you get in the routine of being on the computer all the time, you tend to want to stay on it, you know. But like what you said, you know, you have to return back to the main thing and keep working towards that end goal. And that's really the key.
Yeah, you know, I think terminology is important. You know, there's a difference between focus and tunnel vision. Right? So tunnel vision is something that you're not in control of. And often, especially as an artist, people in general, but especially artists, especially, you know, I play a lot of different instruments, and, you know, getting a new mouthpiece or getting a new piece of gear, it's very easy to get into tunnel vision with that particular piece of gear for a time. 2 weeks, 3 weeks or something. Oh man, I'm just dealing with this one thing, you know?
Right.
So tunnel vision is not something that you can control. It's something that is caused by some kind of external stimulus. All right.
Okay.
Focus is the ability to remove distractions. Focus is a skill. Tunnel vision is a sort of reaction or response to something else. You know, and that whole focus thing, again, that's one of those things that is, I think, severely lacking these days. And honestly, I think it's always been severely lacking. I just think that we have a lot of instant gratification. We have a lot of instant sources of information, and and even in creating videos, especially for marketing purposes, you know, like I'm doing an event in February, and so we finally finished this video that's going to be marketing it. And the whole time, you know, we're making this video, and it's like hard to edit down to the length that you really need. But usually, if a video is over like a minute and a half, people won't watch it, or they won't watch, you know, especially if it's like, they won't watch the whole thing. And that's because we're overstimulated. It's because we have all this new stuff, and it's also because really intensely valuable information is like just laying out there for free. And so I think it causes people to take it for granted. And it also causes them to not work for it. You know, you don't have to work for something that's just laying right there for you. And people expect information to come easy and knowledge to come easy. It's one of the reasons why, again, if you get on YouTube and you look at the videos that are viewed the most, you'll easily be able to draw a conclusion about the length of the videos. You know, most of the ones that go viral and go crazy, they're of a shorter length. And you can back that up. You can say, well, what's the usual length of a song, especially like in a commercial music context? How long is a song? You know, and
that's true.
And then you know, if you go back further than that, and I mean, I'm not here to say that modernity there's something inherently evil about it. That's not my purpose. But we have different sorts of challenges, and then therefore different sorts of skills that we have to develop to counteract, you know, other things.
Right.
So focus is like one of those things that I think we can spend a lot of time. I mean, you know, focus isn't going to happen overnight. People aren't going to just wake up one day and now they have the ability to focus. It's something you have to develop over time.
So that's it for this particular podcast, this episode rather. We'll be back on the next episode with part 2, and it gets better. So you don't want to miss what we dive into, because it really opened up some deeper perspective when it comes to playing and, having that reverence in your playing, or that thing that people can hear when they hear someone play, that, you can tell that there's something deeper going on, or something, a spiritual connection with what they're doing. But we had a great interview to get into that. So stay tuned, hit the notifications bell, and you'll find out when the next one is ready, when it hits your phone. Okay? So we'll see you. Peace. You've been listening to the Productive Q podcast, where we help you to overcome being unproductive so you can produce in the area of your passion. If you really enjoy this podcast and you would like to support it with a financial gift, go to bit.ly/supportpq. That's bit.ly/SUPPORTPQ. Your financial support will help in the production of future programs. Thank you so much for listening.